Hi, this is Asha Jadeja from the Motwani Jadeja Family Foundation, and I'm here in Davos 2024 at the launch of Global India Dialogues that we are kicking off to start shaping the narrative of an emerging India and sort of a newer India that's coming out on the on the global stage now. And I'm interviewing a few leaders in the space that I find will be pivotal in shaping some of these dialogues as we go forward and creating a narrative of a global India. So in that regard, I'm here with my old friend actually, and from my high school class, high school mate from school from Ahmedabad, Neelam Chhiber, a serial entrepreneur, social entrepreneur with many years of work on social impact in India, and somebody that I've known and respected for so many years. So I'm thrilled to have her here with me, and I'm going to have Neelam say a few words about herself and her work, and then we'll plunge into the pros and cons of what it means for India to be on the global stage. So Neelam, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Asha. Yeah, I think we could really go long back to high school, yeah. So I'll just jump into it straight away. I'm an industrial designer from the National Institute of Design, and I, at a young age of 22, decided to go and work in villages in India, and working with indigenous artisans in very remote tribal areas, Bastar to be precise. And I lived with them for a couple of years, not all the time, but some amount of the time. And I worked and I understood really how much talent we have as a society. India has more than 200 million artisans. India has 140 million smallholder farmers, the largest in the world. And it's deeply critical that we retain these skills because this is the foundation and backbone of the green economy. That is what India should strive for. The way China has striven to become the factory of the world, and it helped meet the MDG goals because it pulled millions of people out of poverty. But on the way, they spewed out a lot of carbon. I think the future for India is to build a huge force for green industrialization. A lot of purists don't like the word green industrialization because they consider it to be an oxymoron, because industrialization is polluting and green is not supposed to be. But we call it a regenerative economy. So essentially what we do is we work with women's collectives in rural India, and we help them, enable them to work on circular economy production and supply into global supply chains. So if you look at your largest, everyone thinks that there are huge emissions in transportation, fossil fuels, but actually the largest emissions are in consumption, in food, fashion and lifestyle. What are we buying? What are we wearing? What are we eating? 60 to 70%. And therefore, we believe that the backbone of India's green industrialization could be decentralized, regenerative, creative economy, also called the social economy. And we say this with a deep foundation because we have something called the National Rural Livelihoods Mission. This comes under the Ministry of Rural Development. We have 8 million women in self-help groups across all of India's states. There is a huge endeavor by the NRLM to the Prime Minister in the March 23 budget, the Finance Minister in the March 23 budget announced budgets crossing billions of dollars for enabling collectives of these women, producer companies, to move into global supply chain. Now you are seeing a situation where India has a falling labor force participation of women.
That's true.
It's going down.
Yeah.
And therefore we see that when...
Why is it going down? Tell us a bit more on that.
Because women can't migrate for work. You see, men are migrating for work.
But do they have to migrate? Can they
Yes.
stay in the rural area?
So that's the solution we are trying to provide. Have them stay in the rural area, give them economic activity around farm and non-farm. So the creative economy is the non-farm.
Okay.
And farm also we are talking about moving them into carbon sequestering value chains like bamboo. Yeah, it could be hemp, it could be linen, flax. So bring in, cotton is not a hugely carbon sequestering plant as much as linen is. You will be surprised to know that India imports all the linen from UK and Europe for all the linen that we wear in India.
Is that right?
Why do we need to?
Yeah.
We can grow our own flax. So there are things like this that we are looking at. I've been just speaking deeply with some people, and seaweed is hugely carbon sequestering.
Okay.
We have one of the longest coastlines in the global south.
Yeah.
So seaweed enterprises, good for nutrition, carbon sequestering. So there is a lot of opportunity now when we are looking at climate financing. So not just government schemes, but also taking global climate financing, right? And trying to say that women are not just going to be victims of climate change, but women can also be mitigators of climate change.
No, for sure, for sure. But tell me something, Neelam. As we see, there are two sort of, I won't even say competing forces. There are actually parallel forces that seem to be shaping, sort of this new global India. One is the imperative to say, look, if we are going to be growing the size of the Indian economic pie, right, we have to plug into the global capitalist system, into the system where we can be exporting our goods, we could be engaging in trade, and we were just talking about free trade just now with the Netherlands team. And so I was wondering along with that force of sort of expanding the global pie, we also see in India this movement that you're speaking about of regenerative growth, of agriculture that plugs into global supply chains, which still continues being a green industrialization process. Do you see any conflict between the two, or do you think they are synergized? And if they are not synergized, are you hopeful? Are you confident that they can be synergized?
It's a very good question. Now let's take Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh it's got the world's largest endeavor around natural farming. Yeah, it's run by an IAS officer. Yeah, they've got. I don't have the numbers off the back of my hand, but he was very prominent at COP.
Vijay Kumar.
Vijay Kumar.
Yes, he's by the way.
You are the one, you've awarded him.
Yes, he's the recipient of our first
award, right?
COP28, the Motwani Award, which is such an honor, actually.
So similarly, I think moving away from chemical fertilizer. So there's an interesting anecdote I have around fertilizer. I share it with you. Someone told me that the primary fabric that the Americas wore was linen, was flax. It came from flax. And then Mr. Rockefeller, after he started drilling for oil, had a lot of byproduct, and it had to go into making chemical fertilizer. So he pushed for cotton farming to push the fertilizer. Now, how right or wrong this is, I'm not very... But it is a reality that a lot of forces have pushed a lot of carbonization, and there is a way to unravel this. And you will see global capitalism will have to come down and understand this. And we are seeing, and that's a very big endeavor at the Schwab Foundation around private sector engagement. Governments are understanding this, right? But there is a huge push around the private sector to engage them and look at and have them change how they manufacture and things like that. So definitely there will be a meeting point. It may not be there tomorrow, but I would say 10, 15 years down the line, we will get there.
Yeah. In your current work, Neelam, what are you most excited about? What are you seeing as an avenue of growth and impact in the work that you're doing? I know that you are involved in a bunch of stuff, and you've already had a massive footprint in your past. But in going forward, as India kind of globalizes and starts, having more and more activity abroad also, what aspect of your work do you think will be impacted by that? And are you excited about it?
We are super excited. So we've taken bamboo as our flagship, right? So we're really trying to build a $1 billion initiative around bamboo plantations in India, which will be funded largely by the government of India. They've already come to us and said, 1 million women across 10 states, just 1 million women is nothing much in India, 100,000 women per state. And we work with smallholder farmers, so the huge amount of decarbonization is going to happen through the bamboo. There's going to be income for the next 30 years. Women who plant bamboo will earn for the next 30 years. Bamboo is going into building, is going into construction. Sweden is building an entire town out of engineered wood, and it's all FSC certified wood. Cement is the world's third largest carbon releaser after the US and China. Cement. So we got to move away from this stuff. So bamboo is going to play a huge role, right, going forward in construction, in lifestyle and all of that. And we want to take this initiative. And like I said, what we are doing in bamboo with collectives and the government and private sector, it can go down to hemp, seaweed, etc. But at the same time, we can take bamboo and this whole story to Africa. We already started talking about it. Take it to Asia Pacific, right? Because what has to be cracked is the smallholder farmer.
That's right. And especially Africa, right? Must be a
huge potential.
Yeah, huge potential there.
Huge
And just imagine the climate impact of something like that. And on sort of one last question I want to ask you, Neelam, is about what are you accomplishing here in Davos? Tell us a bit more about what you're doing here, and are you, what are you seeing in terms? Are you seeing a change in? I know you are an old, Davos participant, and please tell us a bit. Are you seeing a change? Are you seeing some sort of more activity of Indian companies, and what's going on? I'm just seeing tons of Indians all over. What are you seeing here?
There's a huge Indian presence here, and we were at a meeting with Professor Klaus Schwab in the morning because he addresses the Schwab communities. There are 3 communities here of Schwab, and he said the biggest issue is rebuilding trust. I think that's the theme of
this year.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see his idealism, right? And I think it's important for India that there is a huge amount of trust building to be done between civil society, government, private sector, everyone, right? As important it is in all the countries of the world. It's not just specific to India.
Right.
It's all over. He spoke about it.
Yeah.
It's everywhere, right? Because when there are so many problems, people tend to divert towards self-protectionism.
True.
Yeah. Right? So he said one of the key endeavors for all of us as social entrepreneurs is we need to talk about building trust. And I think I thought that was extremely wise. And I shared with him that at Davos is when all of the social innovators get a chance to share with the Indian government the special work that can be done together. And the Indian government is phenomenally proactive, as we all know. Huge interests and huge, I would say, passion to move India forward. But it needs to move India forward as an inclusive third largest economy. And I think we're seeing that is going to happen.
Yes, yeah. We were just hearing Edith talking about India's, the first thing that hit her when she was at G20 was how inclusive is our, development trajectory. So happy to hear that. Neelam, thank you so much for being here with us as we launch the first time, for the first year of our Global India Dialogues. And we hope to stay in touch with you for the long haul.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Asha.